Welcome, everyone. I'm Troy Temple,
I'm Deacon Anton Nikolai.
and today we're here to discuss the sixth Sunday in Ordinary Time. And we'd like to welcome everyone, whether you're Catholic or another Christian denomination, or a doubter, or all the way out to the atheist. We'd like you to come and kind of hear the readings, listen to the discussion, and have a discussion with us through the comments as we unpack these readings for the week.
Yeah, there's some good readings this week. So
It's very interesting. This one's a tough one, I think. It's a tough one to hear. So let's dive right in.
Let's jump in. Let's start with our first reading, which is from the book of Sirach, specifically chapter 15, verses 15 to 20. If you choose, you can keep the commandments. They will save you. If you trust in God, you too shall live. He has set before you fire and water. To whichever you choose, stretch forth your hand. Before man are life and death, good and evil. Whichever he chooses shall be given him. Immense is the wisdom of the Lord. He is mighty in power and all-seeing. The eyes of the Lord are on those who fear him. He understands man's every deed. No one does he command to act unjustly. To none does he give license to sin. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. All right. So Sirach.
Yeah.
This is an interesting book because this is part of what we call the Deuterocanonical canon. I can never say that right, so I got it right the first time. I'm feeling pretty good.
Now there's a recording
proof that that I got it right. So I'll do that. And this is an interesting part of the Bible because in the 1500s it was removed by Martin Luther, right?
Sure.
Or during the press and whatever. So and they call it the Apocrypha, but these are obviously in our readings for the year because we go through the Bible every 3 years.
Yeah, we have a 3-year cycle for Sunday readings.
We being Catholics.
Catholics, yes.
Yes. So Sirach, tell me a little bit about Sirach.
Well, we don't actually read from Sirach that much in the lectionary, but today we have the privilege of hearing it. It's one of the wisdom books. So you can take all the Old Testament books and divide them up into different categories, like the prophets, or the historical books, or the Pentateuch. But this Sirach comes from the wisdom books. Some you might know, like Psalms and Proverbs, and the Book of Wisdom, aptly categorized in the wisdom section.
It seems on the nose, but
yes.
Okay.
But here we have the wisdom of Yeshua ben Sira, who was a Jewish elder about 200 BC. And this book is a collection of his wisdom and thoughts and direction. And there's a lot of good stuff in this book, a lot of practical advice for us. And
200 BC, I know it sounds like a long time ago, but that's actually relatively new compared to when we're talking about the Old Testament.
Yeah, some of the Old Testament is much, much older.
Right,
than
thousands of years.
Yes,
right, yes.
So this is a relatively new Old Testament book.
That's interesting. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. I love the very beginning of this is if you choose. I'll stop right there first. I love that because every day we have a choice. I'm a big fan of this thought of we can wake up and decide how our day is going to be, no matter where we are. There's lots of examples of that. It's a tough pill to swallow right there. If you choose, you can keep the commandments.
I think free will runs throughout this particular passage. Yeshua ben Sira is telling us that you have the choice, right, to keep the commandments or not to keep the commandments. Free will is a gift given to us by God, and it's an amazing and powerful gift that we get to choose. I love this line in here. Before man are life and death, good and evil, and whichever he chooses shall be given him.
Another choice, right? You can choose good, you can choose evil, you can choose life, you can choose death.
And what you choose, you will receive. That's something to ponder.
It really is. So yeah, I guess what kind of choices are you making today? We chose to get up and do this recording and do these readings, whether how difficult they are, and to discuss this. So what kind of choices are you making today, to choose good or evil, or life or death? Comment below. These comments help a lot with us, so go ahead and feel free to give us a dialogue here. So
Yeah, and at the end, Ben Sira really hammers this point home that it's our choice, because he says, God does not command anyone to act unjustly, and God does not give anyone license to sin. This is our choice to make. Do we follow the commandments? Do we choose life? Do we choose death? God has set before us fire and water. To whichever you choose, stretch forth your hand. I think Ben Sira is really wise here, just reminding us of the power of our own free will and what direction we want to take. When we get up in the morning, like you said, how do we live our lives? How do we go about our day? That's our choice. It's a lot of power for us to wield and to be responsible with.
And it doesn't say it's an easy choice.
No.
It doesn't say, oh yeah, no problem, wake up and choose it as if it's easy. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, is choose to live the Beatitudes, choose to do the good even when you're not feeling good.
Right.
And it's not easy. The easy thing is to go towards entropy, or towards, whatever happens during the day. It's not an easy choice to do good in the world.
Right. It's the harder path. It's the road less traveled. It's not always the easiest choice, but it's the one we're called to be.
And as you just pointed out, it's been written about a lot.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
So it says, if you choose to keep the commandments, I guess I know we're really going deep into the Old Testament one. What are these commandments? I know everybody here has heard of the 10 Commandments. Well, maybe not everyone, but what are these 10 Commandments?
Well, Moses went up Mount Sinai, right? It was given the 10 Commandments on tablets of stone, and they are. The first commandment is, let's lead off with you.
It's I am your Lord, your God.
You should have no other gods.
No other gods but me. Yes.
Second, you shall not take the name of the Lord in vain. Third, we should keep holy the Sabbath day. 4, we honor our father and mother. 5, shall not kill.
No, I didn't mean for you to keep pointing back on me. That's what I'm asking you. No.
All right. The 6th, you shall not commit adultery. 7th, you shall not steal. 8th, you shall not commit a false oath or a lie. And then 9th, 9th and 10th, you should not covet your neighbor's spouse or your neighbor's property.
Yeah.
So that's kind of your quick.
I rounded it off at the bookend there. Kind of, with help, obviously. So a lot of people get hung up on the very first one. I mean, and if that's where you are in the world, or in your quest for life, then really explore that. Go and look at it. And kind of decide, I guess, is where to start with, right? I am the Lord your God. You shall not have any other gods before me. And you wonder why we are monotheistic. If we, why we talk about loving God, it's because it is the first commandment.
Right. And often we can put other things in the place of God in our lives, whether we realize it or not. If God's not the center of our life, what is?
And as we continue today, why these are so hard is because it gets deeper and deeper into this, and it gets more difficult as you go, and the closer you are to try to do these well.
Right, and that goes back to Ben Sira, right? We have the choice. We know these commandments, but we get to choose: are we going to lie or not lie? Are we going to kill or not kill? Are we going to commit adultery or be faithful to our spouses? Those are our choices.
Right. And then you start playing games with it. Well, is that really is that really this? Or, if I do this, he'll understand. Or
good setup, because in our gospel reading, we're going to get a little more direction as to living by these commandments. So.
All right. So the second reading is again from 1 Corinthians, and it is chapter 2 and verse 6 through 10. And it says, brothers and sisters, we speak a wisdom to those who are mature, not a wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age who are passing away. Rather, we speak God's wisdom, mysterious, hidden, which God predetermined before the ages for our glory, and which none of the rulers of this age knew. For if they had known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, what eye has not seen, and ear has not heard, and what has not entered the human heart, what God has prepared for those who love him. This God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit scrutinizes everything, even the depths of God. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
All right. This was, it opens up with wisdom.
Right. We do that.
So as we say, we like to, tie these together, and we believe that the liturgy of the Catholic Church has kind of woven these kind of together. And so how does this fit with the first reading?
Well, this is an interesting passage. And if you go, this is from chapter 2 of 1 Corinthians.
Yes.
If you go through those first two chapters, St. Paul, the first two chapters of 1 Corinthians, he highlights a lot this comparison between the wisdom of God and the wisdom of the world, the wisdom of humanity, which is limited and with outside of God and outside of God's commandments. And Paul really drives this point home in these first couple chapters that we should be following the wisdom of God and not trusting the wisdom of the world, because that's not fulfilling. That's not going to connect us to God. That's not going to help us get to heaven. It's not something that we can rely on. The wisdom of the world will pass away, but the wisdom of God is forever. I think that distinction runs through not just this passage, but really a lot of those first few chapters.
And the wisdom of God is what we call Revelations, right? I mean, and not the book of Revelations, but what God has revealed over time to humanity, such as the 10 Commandments, right? I mean, those are kind of the wisdom of God that has been revealed, correct?
Right. And the ultimate revelation of God and his word is Christ.
Right. The word incarnate, right?
Exactly.
So
he is the full revelation, which is why Paul references God's wisdom at one point being mysterious, hidden. It was predetermined before all ages. It's from the beginning, but it wasn't always revealed to us because Christ was only born 2,000 years ago.
And that's a hard concept because, a lot of people who struggle with the concept of God sees this guy with a beard up in the sky. And that's not who we talk about when we talk about the revelation of what God has told them about himself, correct?
Right.
It's before time, before space, before matter, before everything, which is a very hard concept to wrap your brain around.
Oh yeah, it's well, we can try to as humans, but our own brains and intellect can only comprehend so much.
Right.
But yeah, it is hard to fathom the creator who existed before all things.
Yeah. And so before time even began, this was planned, apparently.
Yeah, predetermined from the get-go.
All right. And then and he goes in and he quotes someone. This eye is not seen, ear is not heard.
Yeah, this is from Isaiah. It's not an exact quote from Isaiah, but we had been reading a lot from.
I was gonna say we're back to our friend Isaiah.
Right.
That's and it's in his later chapters, right?
Yeah, I think it's Isaiah 64. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But it's later in Isaiah. This quote, and again, it's not an exact quote, but that's who he's referencing here. The gospel, or I'm sorry, Saint Paul in this letter. But yeah, it's beautiful. Eye has not seen, and ear has not heard, and it has not entered the human heart what God has prepared for those who love him. So speaking of things we can't comprehend, we can't comprehend the goodness that awaits us if we make the right choices and follow the will of God in our own lives.
And how much God loves us.
Yeah, we can't even comprehend it.
Right. Which gets into mercy, which we haven't really touched too much on yet, but that's a fun topic. So
I hear that the merciful are blessed.
Yeah, blessed are the merciful. I guess we did touch on it a little bit, right?
Yeah,
a little bit.
They'll be shown mercy.
Yeah. So yeah, go be merciful, because then you'll be shown mercy. And actually that works with people too. Most of the time. So other than that, I think we're ready for the next reading, unless you had anything else to talk about for the Corinthians.
No, let's go. This is a long gospel, so we should jump in. So put it in context. We are still in the midst of the Sermon on the Mount.
Mhm.
which is starts with chapter 5 of Matthew's gospel, starts with the Beatitudes, but we're told that Jesus went up the mountain to give his interpretation of the law. It's similar to Moses going up the mountain. There's a lot of parallels of Jesus being the new Moses here and giving us his interpretation of the law from the mountain. It's not Sinai, of course, but there's a lot of similar imagery here. So let's,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, so Christ is the new Moses. Let's pick up. We're in Matthew chapter 5, various verses. I won't read all those numbers, but here we go. Jesus said to his disciples, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. Amen, I say to you, until heaven and earth pass away, not the smallest letter or the smallest part of a letter will pass from the law until all things have taken place. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do so will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever obeys and teaches these commandments will be called greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You have heard that it was said to your ancestors, 'You shall not kill, and whoever kills will be liable to judgment.' But I say to you, whoever is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. And whoever says to his brother, 'Raca,' will be answerable to the Sanhedrin. And whoever says, 'You fool,' will be liable to fiery Gehenna. Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there recall that your brother has anything against you, leave your gift there at the altar. Go first and be reconciled with your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Settle with your opponent quickly while on the way to court. Otherwise, your opponent will hand you over to the judge, and the judge will hand you over to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Amen, I say to you, you will not be released until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body thrown into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than to have your whole body go into Gehenna. It was also said, 'Whoever divorces his wife must give her a bill of divorce.' But I say to you, whoever divorces his wife, unless the marriage is unlawful, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to your ancestors, 'Do not take a false oath, but make good to the Lord all that you vow.' But I say to you, do not swear at all, not by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Do not swear by your head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. Let your yes mean yes, and your no mean no. Anything more is from the evil one." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
What do you think, Troy?
That was a long one, and if you dive into it, this is the one I was saying it's pretty hard to hear. Because it takes what we talked about with the Ten Commandments and puts it under a microscope and says, not only can you not do it, but you really can't even get close to it, or you can't even head towards that path.
Right. And that's I like the opening of this passage that Jesus tells us very clearly. And again, this is from the Matthew's gospel. So to a Jewish community, Jesus says that I've not come to abolish the law and the prophets, the Ten Commandments, the law of Moses, the writings of Isaiah and Jeremiah. I've not come to abolish that, but to fulfill it, right? To bring it to its completion, to take it a step further, to perfect it. And then he goes on to reference certain of these commandments and explain how he's fulfilling them and giving us further direction and just making it a bit more clear. So as you said, it's not just avoiding a certain action, it's a little bit more than that.
It is. And I guess one of the things this talks about, unless your righteousness surpasses the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. At that time, the scribes and the Pharisees were very high in position. They were very expected people to give them this seat of honor, expected to be going into a place and people practically worshiping them, correct? I mean,
Yeah, they were the keepers of the law.
Yep.
They understood all the laws, and they allegedly were supposed to follow all the laws. But I think, but they did not have the benefit of Jesus, right? They're
Right.
just encountering him for the first time. We have the teachings of Christ. So he's telling us just mere adherence to the law, like the scribes and the Pharisees do, is not enough. We have to go that extra step. He's calling us to do more.
And it says, but whoever obeys and teaches these commandments, this is where I think it's difficult, is because if you obey and teach, these are really hard things to do. That
Right.
means that you can't even get close to being angry at someone. You can't even get on that path. We all have. Every single person in this planet has been angry, has been lustful, has been something in their lifetime. I'm not calling anyone out. It's everyone. So how can you still go and teach these things if you can't follow them perfectly?
Yeah, I mean, it's always it can be a struggle to maintain adherence to Jesus's teachings, because we have temptation, we have our own fallen human nature. We're not perfect, we're not God. So because we're imperfect, it takes work and it's a challenge.
And you have to choose not to do that or not to go down that path. And you can almost feel when you're doing the wrong thing, if you are, they call it well-formed or whatever, or you can almost in your head hear your conscience say, nope, you don't want to do that. And that is, that is your choice at that point, to do it or not do it.
Right. Ultimately, it's up to us to choose our path. And, to hit on the anger point you made, Jesus specifically references that fifth commandment, right? You shall not kill, which was a prohibition against unjust murder. And he's saying that it's not enough not to kill. What's the root of murder? Is usually rage or anger or wrath. Jesus is saying, take that out of your life.
Yeah.
Right. Don't even get to the point of rage or wrath or anger that would lead you to something as drastic as murder. Don't even do that. So it's not just the action, do not kill. It's what's in your heart. What's your intention? What are you holding inside?
Which is your true self, right? I mean, if that's your go-to, that is your true self. And that is where you need to start to purify. And that's a difficult thing.
Right. And we all, like you said, we all have feelings of anger into ourselves, but that's the internal working that we have to do inside of ourselves to realize we have those feelings and to let them go, so that they don't control us and lead to bad actions, with the extreme being here murder, but not to do anything based out of anger or wrath. So that's why he's fulfilling this law, this one in particular, because he's saying it's not enough just not to kill. You got to also not have that intention or that anger inside.
Well, there was a progression to this too. So, I mean, thousands of years before Jesus, human life wasn't, there was no such conversation as human dignity, or, there was a dominant group of people or whatever taking over other groups of people, and murder was common. All sorts of evil things were common. And then here comes Moses with the 10 Commandments saying, honor your mother and father. There is one God. Don't kill. Don't commit adultery. And that was radical. Sure. And then Jesus goes up this mountain with your symbolism and says, you know what? Those things were radical for the time, but hear me now now don't even have those in your heart.
Right. Like humanity, you're ready for the next step.
Yes.
You're ready for me to now fulfill the law and the prophets, and to take it a step further and to call you to something a little bit deeper. And it's similar with the commandment against adultery.
Mhm.
It's not enough just to avoid adulterous actions. We can't even have lustful thoughts in our hearts. What does he say? For those who even have, anyone who's even looked at another person with lust has already committed adultery in their heart.
Right.
That's a much higher standard than just not doing the adulterous action. It's don't even have those thoughts. So he's taking things a step further and calling us to do more. I also like his discussion on false oaths.
Yes.
Back then it was common to make an oath to ensure that you were speaking the truth. We see that in court today, like you promise, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And Jesus is saying, why do we reserve the truth for when we're under oath? We should tell the truth all the time. We don't have to be under oath to tell the truth. So he's saying, don't even bother taking oaths or swearing.
Which is hard. I mean, if you are consciously take a week and say, I'm going to tell the truth this whole week, people don't even think about it. And like, I'm always honest. Yeah. But if you are conscious about it for a week, there are times where you're thinking, oh, I didn't even mean to say that. That wasn't, I wasn't trying to lie, but that was just something little. It's
White lies or little lies.
Yeah, little white lies or whatever, and you don't even think about it. But if you take a week and try to intentionally not lie, it's pretty intense at how much you catch yourself just having the thought of lying.
Right. Like when I asked how my hair looked and you said it was fine.
Yeah.
Was that a lie?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No, not at all. I didn't say I was gonna. No, I'm kidding.
No, but he's saying you'll be truthful all the time. If you're truthful all the time, then why do you need what's special about an oath? It's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not even necessary if you're truthful. Let your yes mean yes, your no mean no.
What about all this Gehenna talk?
Gehenna is symbolic of damnation, of punishment, of hell, essentially. So if when he says, if your right eye is causing you to sin, cut it out. I think he's saying, get to the root of the sin. If there's something in your life that's causing you to sin, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of the temptation, because it's easier to get rid of that source of sin than to risk punishment for your whole self or damnation for your whole self to be thrown into Gehenna. It's better to get rid of the source of sin. That's easier.
Right. And that's choosing life over death, right?
Back to Sirach.
Yeah.
Very
so
good.
so there's definitely a tie-in through these.
Yeah, good and evil is set before you. Dark and light is set before you. You get to choose, or we as humans get to choose.
And then I like the very end, and it kind of ties back into the oath. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. That's another thing. Try for a week. Throw out the well, maybe, or I should do this and should. There's anyway. We all catch ourselves doing that. Make your yes be yes and your no be no for a week, and you'll be surprised what happens that week. It's pretty intense. So there's a lot of really good in this dense packet and in this dense reading. Go back and read it for yourself a few times, listen to it a few times. Can't get to everything in this because I think we could talk about this for a very, very long time.
Right. And this theme even goes into next week, because we hear these, you've heard it said, right, where Jesus is referencing the law and the prophets, the Jewish law. But I say to you, right, he's coming from a place of divine authority, that I'm telling you that what we really mean, what God really means by this commandment is a little deeper. But there's more of these next week. We get into some other topics where this discourse continues. So we don't even have all of them here in this reading. So,
right. And it does continue. So this isn't all of it.
This isn't all of it, but the church did us a favor and gave us a nice bite-sized portion today.
Yeah, it was a big bite, but it was a difficult bite to swallow.
Yeah, it was hard to swallow, but we're going to take this section and read it, reflect on it this week, and we'll continue this discourse next week as we journey through the Sermon on the Mount.
So if you want to hear a little bit more about this reading, go to Mass on Sunday. Your priest or deacon or whoever's doing the homily will give you their insights on the readings. And as always, I'd like to invite everybody before you go to mass, go to reconciliation, go to confession. It will definitely open it up and enhance your experience at mass. Until next week, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening, and be blessed.
Yeah, take care. Have a great day.